How's it going, folks? This is Bill Wenslow from Morley, and today we're going to talk about hum. Now, most musicians who are watching this have probably experienced hum at one time or another, so today we're going to talk about why hum happens, how to diagnose the problem, and how to fix it. In this video, we'll cover three main types of hum: ground loop hum, audio connection hum, and pickup hum. And we'll look at an example of each and talk about how to diagnose where the problem is and how to get rid of the noise. Having the hum no, the hum eliminator, and the hum X will help you get rid of 90% of the hum problems you have out there. It's like having an extra set of strings. You might not break a string, but if you do, it's better have that extra set handy. And just like with hum, you might not have hum, but if you do, it's best to be prepared. This particular setup is an example of a potential ground loop problem. And that happens when you have two grounded pieces of gear, in this case these two amplifiers, that are hooked together via an audio connection, in this case a guitar plugged into an ABY box, and then out to the two amplifiers for a dual amp setup. The two amp grounds can fight each other and act as an antenna for noise and hum that will get into your sound. And that can cause hum, and it sounds like this. Yeah, that's not going to be good at the gig. So how do you diagnose what the problem is? Well, first, you can unplug the guitar from the setup and see if the hum remains. If the hum remains, you can rule out pickup noise, and you pretty much most likely have a ground loop. Another way to diagnose it is you can certainly take the guitar and plug it into each amp individually and see if there's hum. If everything's working good individually, then you know the hum is being caused by the audio connection here, creating this ground loop and letting the hum get in. You can also disconnect the grounded power cables. First, turn off the equipment you're going to unplug, and then remove the cable. If this gets rid of your noise, you have a ground loop. It should be noted that the ABY is not causing the hum, but the connections are facilitating the ground loop, which is this antenna that allows noise and hum to get into your setup. Now that we've identified that this is a ground loop hum, how do you get rid of it? Well, Morley makes two devices that will fix this issue. First is our new hum no, which is placed between the power cable and the power inlet of your offending gear. So first, let's turn on the power to get the hum going. Then what we want to do is make sure the power's off on the piece of gear you're going to put the hum no on. Pull the power cord out, put the power cord into the end of the hum no, and plug the other end of the hum no into the power inlet, and voila. Just like magic, the noise is gone, and you can get on with your gig. The other solution Morley makes is the hum X. Well, this is a ground filter that goes right onto the power plug of the offending gear. So to install the hum X, simply turn off the power to the equipment. I'm going to turn it on to get the noise going. Okay, and turn that off. Unplug that amplifier, put the hum X on the power plug, plug it back in, and noise is gone. So for power and ground related hum, the hum no or the hum X are the two devices that you need to solve the problem. They both have handy LEDs to show that they're working. The hum X is going to be the advantage if the power cable is easy to get to, or if the power cord in the back is connected to the back of the piece of gear. It has a 6 amp current draw limit, where the hum no has an 8 amp current draw limit. And the hum no has the advantage when you can't really get to the power. All you have to do is pull the power plug out of the back of the piece of gear, and this would be the advantage in those cases. Because sometimes, you got spaghetti cables everywhere and it's hard to see what's going where. So either way, both pieces of gear are absolutely essential for your toolbox. You should have a few of them, but at least one of each. And in some cases, you may have multiple ground loops on multiple pieces of gear. Maybe your other bandmates are having troubles and you'll have these available, you'll be the hero. So this setup here is an example of potential audio connection hum. So what we have here is we have a guitar running into a effects loop pedal, and there's a cable from the effects loop pedal going up, running near the transformer of this amplifier. Now transformers, like any power source, usually emit an electromagnetic frequency, or EMF, and this would be indicative of running cables in a live situation or in a studio application. You might have cables running along a wall or a floor where there's actually something emanating noise, and the cable itself will pick up on that noise. So in this setup, the noise is created from having this cord up by the transformer, and our instincts may be at that point to put a hum-no or a hum-x on the equipment because you hear the hum. And we do have that on this setup, but in this case it didn't help because it wasn't a ground related issue, it's a audio connection related issue. So let's fire this up and see what happens. So I'm going to turn the power on to this amplifier, and then I'm going to engage this effects loop pedal, which engages this cord that's near the transformer. And as you can see, it's picking up pretty heavily on the noise emitted from that transformer. And again, this is an example of anywhere where you have cords running along or near power sources or lighting equipment. This is the type of noise that can occur in the audio connection. So what we've done with this setup is we've inserted the hum eliminator into the cable from the effects loop pedal that runs near the transformer, which is the source of the noise. So it's important to note that the hum eliminator should always be placed on the actual cable where the noise is being picked up. And you might not be sure, so you might have to try it in a couple of different locations to get it to work its best. So now when we turn this amp on in this setup with the hum eliminator running into the effects loop pedal, when we turn the effects loop pedal on, there's no noticeable increase in noise. And the problem solved. A few things to note about the hum eliminator. It uses custom isolation transformers to get rid of the hum. It's got a cold rolled steel housing. It's handheld and small enough to fit wherever you need to place it. It's passive, meaning it doesn't require power or a battery. It has 2 channels with 1/4 inch and XLR jacks. The 1/4 inch jacks can accept a unbalanced tip sleeve connection or balanced tip ring sleeve connection. And you can route through the connectors in any combination. So you can go 1/4 inch to 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch to XLR, XLR to 1/4 inch, or XLR to XLR. Last but not least, let's talk about pickup hum. Now, pickup hum occurs when you have outside devices such as lighting, dimmer switches, neon signs, or other pieces of gear that are emanating some sort of signal, and your guitar pickups are actually picking up on that noise. And then your amplifier is amplifying the noise along with your guitar signal. So if you have a guitar or a bass setup and you're experiencing hum, the easiest way to diagnose the problem is unplug your instrument from the amplifier. If the hum goes away, then you have pickup related hum. If the hum remains, then you have ground loop or audio connection hum. If you're still having trouble finding the source of hum, here are a couple more things to look for. So how do you solve pickup hum? Well, no real direct solutions are out there. Single coil pickups are just a little bit noisier than humbuckers. Let me illustrate. Here we got this guitar plugged into this amp. In humbucker mode, you get a little bit of tiny noise, and then you turn on the distortion and you get a little expected noise, but you can live with that. However, in single coil mode, that might be a problem. Now, Morley doesn't really have any solutions for pickup hum, but there are devices out there that can help. So we suggest looking into a noise gate, a hush unit, a decimator pedal, or a hum debugger. And these are products made by other companies that each work slightly different from one another, so do some research and find the one that's best for you. Now, in addition, there are companies out there who make noiseless single coil pickups, so you may want to check some of those out as well. We hope you found this video helpful for diagnosing and solving hum problems that you encounter out in the field sooner or later. For more information, visit morleyproducts.com, and thanks for watching.